Hi everybody, JG Pasterjack here from Grassroots Motorsports. Our buddy Tom O'Gorman, who we ran into in the paddock in Daytona as the Michelin Pilot Challenge cars were rolling out to the track from the grid. We're like, hey Tom, shouldn't you actually be in one of those cars now and not in street clothes? So he explained to us that now after, I'm trying to put this as delicately as possible.
Sure.
After a meteoric rise and nothing but success, you've now sort of gotten the full picture of professional sports car racing. So, kind of describe to us what happened. You're a professional driver by trade.
Sure.
Driving in a TCR car with LA Honda World last year, and so bring us up to 4 days ago.
Sure.
And what happened?
So, like you said, last year we were racing in the Michelin Pilot Challenge. We had a full season. We won a couple races. Had some
come right
success.
through. Yeah.
You guys are good. And
we're of course set up in the media room at Daytona.
Yeah.
Right in front of a door because we're rank amateurs. But yeah.
So, every indication at the end of last year was that we would be good to go for next year, and we actually had kind of a penciled confirmation that we would be racing next year. Here this year, and on, even through like trade show season, SEMA and PRI, those things. And December 30th, we get the notification that is not the case, and there's a lot of balls in the air, and it's kind of left me without a seat. So yeah, you ran across me in my jorts, and they don't let me race in those, believe it or not. So,
but you won several national solo championships in those.
In jorts, yeah, they let me do that.
So here's it sounds to a person like me or like most people who have a job they go to every day and get paid, that sounds awful, but to some extent, this is the nature of your chosen profession, and this is kind of the first time you've been there. So, what were you shocked? Were you surprised? Was it like, oh, okay, finally this has happened to me. I got it out of the way. I'm gonna recover.
Yeah.
How do you emotionally deal with that?
Sure. It's tough, but like you said, there's, the interesting part is it's been a different challenge every single year. Even back to autocross days, there were years that I didn't know what I was going to drive. There were years that I was, in the middle of the season, someone let me change co-drivers and things like that. And then, the first year of pro racing, I had enough money to buy the car, and it took everything I had to buy the car. And then the only way I could race it was crowdfunding. And my, my friends and family from the grassroots motorsports level, grassroots motorsports, we kind of like rallied behind me and brought me into that world. And then the next year was the first partnership with Honda, and they gave me the car and I had to pay for it. And that was, sleep in the car, sleep on the couch, do whatever you can to save money, kill your social life, nothing else but racing so that you can afford it. And then the next year was figuring out how to work with a race team for the first time. And then the year after that was we were existing under another pro team's tent as our own team and managing that kind of coexistence. And then last year was the first year where I was just kind of placed in this situation. And, like you said, we had a really good year and won a couple races. But my perspective I always try to keep is if I never get to do it again, I got to do it once.
Yeah.
And that's been my perspective since I started autocrossing. I never thought I'd get to go to nationals when I learned what that was. And then every single year things become more and more real. And, last year I got to test the NSX GT3, and that was, I'm at the track looking at the car and assuming something will happen, I'm not going to drive it.
Yeah.
And then I'm pulling onto the track out of pit lane and okay, now it's happening, So each year's just kind of presented these different challenges, and the reality from my selfish perspective is I can, wallow in it and feel sorry for myself, and it's, how hard can it be? There's got to be a seat somewhere, whatever else. But the number of balls being juggled behind the scenes and publicly, all of it's so much bigger than me. So that's why I think it's really important to remove the selfish, feelings from the situation.
Yeah.
And say, they'll figure it out when they can. They're doing everything that they can. They've told me I'm not out, but we're working through it.
Well, which is so. Would 22-year-old Tom have reacted the same way, or would you have just flipped over? Screw you guys!
No.
That's a super mature reaction, but also there's this sort of realization that like some of the most famous people in this sport have faced the same thing, where all of a sudden it's like there's there's only job security as you know, while your hands are on the steering wheel, basically. And even then, not always so
Exactly,
much.
right. Yes, like you said, it's December 30th, and we hear that, you know, Shelby and I aren't driving together, and I'm the one out of the car, and here we are the 2nd, so it's only 4 days. But where was I going with that thought? It's basically that I'm not the first person to experience this.
Yeah.
You know, I already had my flight, I already have my hotel, I'm here, can't hurt to be here. But no one cares. You know, everyone's heard that story before a million times. So you know, everyone has empathy, and some you know, some people have experienced it before. But in reality, it's nothing new. That's happened probably to half a dozen people here already.
Well, sure, and you're also in a sport where no matter how good you are, there's somebody with a check.
Sure, and that
could be more appealing than you, because they can write that check.
And there's 2 things I've learned about professional motorsports, and the first one I tell everybody that you know, they ask about how it works, and it's, my analogy is always, imagine being able to pay $1 million to be the quarterback of an NFL team, regardless of qualifications at all. That's how it works. So if you can cut that check and there's the opening, then that's great, and that kind of blows people's minds, but that's the best analogy I've kind of landed on. And then the second part of it is, like I said, there's so many balls being juggled at all times that there's literally no guarantee at any point, and you have to understand that every time you get out of a car, there's no guarantee you're getting back in a car.
We were having the same conversation yesterday, that there is a road to success in motorsports as a driver by being good or by being incredibly rich. The being good road is much narrower than the being rich road, but they both exist. So what do you do next? You know, you still have a relationship with Honda, obviously, and they're trying to get you in a car. I don't know how much you can talk about it at this point, you know, on January 3rd or whatever it is right now. But what's cooking right now?
Sure. Well, there's 2 things, you know, on the, like you said, on the professional side of my relationship with Honda, they've, you know, the statement was, you're not out, we're just working through it, and there are, you know, there's a whole other series with SRO. There's plenty of, I've always said this, the best part about Honda is they race at every single level, and I've also found in my kind of, what was the meteoric rise? I'll take that. In the meteoric rise, I'm one of the few drivers that gets to participate at this level that would be at a racetrack anyway if I wasn't getting paid, if I had nothing to drive, you know, that kind of thing. So keeping my one foot in my grassroots, keeping my one foot in the enthusiast side of racing and driving, that's been there the entire time. That's never gone away. So the reality is I'll do some SCCA racing. I'll go to every grid life event that I can go to. I'll do every grassroots level, you know, event that I can get to. And yeah, I might have to work a little more this year and, you know, pick up a couple jobs, but I'm not, you know, it's not like I'm never going to get to drive a car again because I'm not driving here.
Right.
And that may be how some of these guys look at it, because if they're not in a car getting paid, then they're not in a car. But the reality is I'm going to go to every event that I can anyway, and I'm still going to be in a car every weekend.
And you still have that sweet Camaro.
If I can. I do still have the secret Camaro, and I still have, you know, I go to a grid life event. They do 4 races a weekend. I've driven 3 cars in a weekend that the first time I drove the car at speed was hitting the brakes into turn 1 at the green flag, wheel to wheel. I don't know who gets to do that. I don't know why people let me do that, but those kind of things are in a completely different scope, but just as fun and just as rewarding, and I'll keep doing that as long as I can too.
Awesome. Okay, so let's obviously there's going to be the next chapter of this conversation. We hope. What do you have any sort of date in mind when you might have a clearer path of 2020?
Well, the SRO season starts March, first weekend of March, so we have literally 2 months for that to pan out. And
so that'd be at St. Pete?
COTA.
Oh, okay.
Which I love COTA. So professionally, that would be the next kind of benchmark, and then, you know, the Sebring. Well, even sooner than that, if something happens at Daytona, that'd be great. I'm available. But also, you know, as every single race comes along, at that point they're one-offs, and there's an opportunity for everyone. And then outside of that, you'll see me at a track everywhere.
Awesome. Good luck. One of the nicest young people that we've ever met, and actually knew the Daytona USA theme song. So I guess some old school street cred from Tom O'Gorman. Good luck, man. Thanks for talking to us, and we hope to see you actually not in the media room, but out on track in the next couple months.
Thanks, sir.